Hi, I'm Ralph. Welcome back to the channel. This is week 2, day 3 of doing the carnivore diet. But you'll remember if you watched the last video, this channel is not just going to be about diet. It's going to be about diet, health, fitness, overall mental well-being. But a diet is a very important part to those other aspects. It's hard to achieve mental fitness, physical fitness, physical health without taking care of the diet. So it's probably the most important of all of them. With that said, if you watched the last video, at the very end, I gave you the results. During the first week, I'd lost 12.2 pounds. Yes! But you can't expect to do that every single week. This week, for example, and I hope you don't mind, I've got some notes here because I want to make sure I'm accurate when I'm telling everybody. On Tuesday, which was the diet for Monday, I lost 0.6 pounds. And on Wednesday morning, this morning, I had lost 0.4 pounds. Pretty big difference from last week. What was the difference? Last week, being the first week on the diet, you're losing a lot of water weight. You don't lose water weight every week. As long as the trend is still going down, I'm pretty happy. What have I been eating? Well, Monday, breakfast, 2 eggs, 3 bacon strips, coffee. Lunch, I had 2 eggs, 3 bacon strips, water. Dinner, I had some bison chuck steak. If you want more about that, check out my other channel, Ralph Knows Food, where you can see how I made that. Although I gotta say, it might have been a little bit of a disappointment. I think I'd rather have regular chuck steak, which I also have recipes for over on that other channel. Tuesday was kind of a rough day. It was a pretty busy day for me, and I was pretty hurried. And I only had time to get in about 1 cup of coffee in the morning, no breakfast. Had to rush off, didn't have an opportunity to have lunch. That's okay. A lot of times people mix in intermittent fasting and carnivore, so that's no big deal. But dinner time, this is where it gets rough. I had gotten a call from my son earlier in the day, and he told me that my grandson was going to be competing in a mutton busting contest that very night at the fairgrounds. Can't miss that. So had to rush off to the county fairgrounds. Hadn't had dinner yet. Have you been to a county fair? Not a lot of choices for food at the county fair. A lot of that is fast food. A lot of bad choices. But it was 104 degrees, had been all day. I had not really had any water all day. I'd had nothing in the way of food all day. I was starting to feel pretty weak. I wouldn't really call it a keto flu. I'd just call it needing some food, and I hadn't had any water, so I was dehydrated. Being out in that heat, walking around, I basically had to go find a seat, and I did what little I could. I went to one of those stands with my son, got a bottle of water, got one of those sausages on a stick, and that was about as close as I could get to carnivore that night. But I made it through, and you can too. Moving on with the week. This is Friday, day 5 of week 2 on carnivore. So this week's been going pretty well. I've got some tips that I'm trying to follow as far as preparing my meals and getting ready for the meals. But let's get to the stats first and get those out of the way. Thursday morning, gained 0.2 pounds. How can you possibly gain 0.2 pounds when you're on diet? I don't know if it's calorie restricted because I'm not tracking the calories, but I know my quantity's not been that great. But this happens on diets. It fluctuates up and down. Maybe I just retain a little extra water, who knows? But it went up 0.2, and that is like nothing. Nothing to be concerned about, nothing to worry about. It's going to happen to you too. Friday morning, praise the Lord, I am down another 1.2 pounds. So that more than offset yesterday's. So for the week, I'm now down 2 pounds. Okay, I wish there was more, but the week's not over. This is only day 5. Could be a lot worse. If I only did a half pound a day average, that's not too bad. So we'll see how this goes. Now, how hard has it been to follow the diet? On Wednesday, I'd had 2 eggs, bacon, coffee, no lunch, and I had a business dinner to go to. And they had a big buffet out there. They were serving fajitas, chicken fajitas, beef fajitas, serve yourself. This worked out great. I was able to load up on the chicken strips and the beef strips, and that's all I had, and it was perfect. Thursday, I had to rush off. I only had time for another quick coffee in the morning. I had to get off to another business meeting, and by the time that was done, it was kind of late morning, so I went out to have breakfast at a restaurant. Let me tell you something. Waffle House is your friend. If you go to Waffle House and you order the scrambled egg breakfast, you can tell them, leave off the toast, leave off the hash browns, but please give me 2 extra eggs. And so you can wind up with 4 eggs and 3 strips of bacon. Now it's the thin strips, but again, we're talking Waffle House here. But you get a whole lot of eggs and some bacon, perfect for carnivore. Not a bad deal for $9.50, something like that for when you're eating out. How often can you do that in a restaurant and still stay carnivore? It's almost 6 pounds of ground beef. Picked it up at Costco. I'm going to try to break this down into pretty close to pound packages, but since it's not an even 6 pounds, we're going to be kind of close. So we're just going to divide this, about halfway, then take it into thirds. Then I'm going to toss one of these into my scale, see how close I came. Be helpful if I turn the scale on first. That's coming up to about 11. I'm going to call that good because we know I don't really have 6 pounds here. Going to put it into one of these baggies. Now, if you're doing it for the freezer, use a freezer bag. They've got regular bags out there, especially sandwich size. They do make freezer sandwich size. So if you're trying to freeze something small, look for the freezer package of sandwich size. Now I'm going to stick this all in here. And try to kind of flatten that out some. That way it stacks easier in the freezer. I've also got a vacuum sealer, but not everybody does. So I'm purposely doing it this way so that you can see that you don't have to have a vacuum sealer to vacuum seal your bag, because we're going to be using what they call the immersion method of vacuum sealing. I've got this in here. It's all pretty flat. Put it into the water. Submerge the whole bag in. All the way right down. In fact, let's close up most of that zipper. Push that air out till you get to the very end and just finish sealing it. And there you have it. It's vacuum sealed. Maybe not quite as vacuum sealed as a professional food sealer would be, but it's going to be good enough. It's good enough where you could put it directly into a sous vide cooker right now, but it's also perfect for going into the freezer. And it's all pre-portioned out. You can get it ready to cook right now. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of effort. And with ground beef, you already know what the fat percentage is. So that's kind of my little tip for today, and I will catch you in the next chapter. This is the wrap up for week 2. This is Monday morning, weigh-in time, so we can get the final results. But before I give you those results, let me just kind of tell you about some of the things going on over the weekend. On Sunday, I took my wife out for brunch. We normally like to do that on Sundays. I'm a little bit more limited now with Carnivore, but this is an advantage of having a spouse that is not on Carnivore. You can kind of swap things out. So I got a breakfast at the Eggs Up, diner, cafe, whatever they call it, and it already had a lot of the Carnivore stuff on it, except for biscuits and gravy, which I was able to swap to my wife, and she gave me her scrambled eggs that she normally is not all that thrilled about. So it worked out for both of us. So I should be showing you a picture right now of what that breakfast looked like and how easy that was to achieve probably the ultimate Carnivore breakfast of like 4 eggs, multiple sausage patties, I think about 5 strips of bacon. I mean, this will fill you up for the weekend. Really, it will. But that went great, it really did. Also, I was able to do a little ketone test and found out that I was actually, in fact, in ketosis. And if you're wondering how to do that, they actually sell these keto strips at probably most pharmacies. And I should be showing you a picture of one of those bottles right now. And really, it's a simple test to take. You just compare the strip next to the color code on the side of the bottle, and it tells you if you're in ketosis and what level of ketosis you're actually in. Pretty simple. So I kind of recommend that for people that are kind of wondering how they're actually doing as far as getting into ketosis. It confirms what you're actually doing. Now, on to the results, which, here we go. On Sunday, I was actually down 1 pound, which that is awesome. And as of this morning, I was down another 0.6 pounds. So for the week, I was down 3.2 pounds. Now, big difference between that and the 12.2 pounds from the first week, but as we've gone over several times, you can't really go by the first week because a lot of that weight is going to be water weight, and a lot of that may even come back after you start drinking more water. So that's not a great comparison between the two, but it shows that the trend is going the right direction. And if all I lost was 3.2 or 3.5 pounds a week, I'd be pretty thrilled with that. That's a pretty good pace. The trend is going the right direction. So am I happy? Yes, I am. So let's see how it goes next week. In the meantime, if you're liking the video, give me a like down below, maybe a subscription, and please, please, please leave me comments. Let me know what I'm doing right. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. Give me suggestions. I love my viewers on the other channel. I know I'm going to love them on this new channel too. So thanks again, and I will catch y'all the next time.